This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have my current build of my DNA armor stuff, which is honestly just slowly just becoming more and more of just spicy Imperial Digimon, but it's a deck I really like playing, and I did take it to Primvitational this past week and ended up getting third with it, so I think it did a good job, and I think a lot of people have been asking my build and everything, so we finally have it here. Now that I'm feeling kind of confident with it, and I feel ready to kind of show people it. So starting us off, we do have our eggs. We do have 4 of the Demi Vs. I don't think this is too crazy, and then 1 Upamon there. So obviously card draw is really good. We have a bunch of ways to get jamming in this deck, especially with the XVmon that spoilers is in this deck. So being able to do that, I think, is strong, and so I think this makes sense. Card draw is great, and we want 5 eggs because we are a little bit aggressive at times. Again, that extra 1 is good. And then next up are rookies, and I think most people will kind of live and die by the rookies. It's usually the spiciest part of everyone's deck is their ratio. So we do have 3 of the jamming Vmon, 3 of the EX1 memory gain Vmon that on unsuspension. We do have 3 of the star deck Vmon that lets us look top 3 for a free trait and goes from there. And then we do have 2 of the BT9 ones that will look top 4 for any 2 color card with a blue, and then also 3 Labramons that gain the memory if you have jamming on this guy. So I like all these. Honestly, I think these are all the ones that make sense for this deck specifically. If I was to put 1 more rookie in, I'd probably put a 4th more of the jamming Vmon, because we are only running 14 rookies. So if you want to bump it up to 15, I would say jamming Vmon is where you add it. But this deck list is honestly very, very tight. So I kind of have to be very kind of specific with my ratios. And obviously, I don't think, like, not finding a rookie in this deck feels kind of bad, especially since we don't have a lot of alternative ways to do that. So I think that's something, if I was to change something, I would probably do that. But going into our level 4s, we do have 4 of the aforementioned XVmons. Obviously, jamming on this guy is so good, especially since you have the Demi V as your egg more times than not. And being able to give the Imperial Digimon are free and its trait gains jamming as well. So this pretty much goes up your entire line, gives it jamming, and that's kind of nice. We do also have 4 of these Stingmon Best Buds right here. You can maybe go down to 3 of this if you want another rookie. This is probably the first card I'd chop. It is very good. It does help you go up your chain, so I do feel bad for doing that, but obviously, if you need some more rookies to start your chains, I think the Stingmon is the first one to go from there. And then we do have 3 of the Lydramons. And one thing you always have to remember is you can't digivolve on top of the Labra. So if you don't like Labra, if you want to put it down to 2, put a jamming Vmon in instead, just to have more consistency with this guy. But since we are running some armor stuff, that is kind of important there. And then 2 Magnamons. I really want to bump this up to 3, but I don't really have a good way to do that right now. If we, I think 3 would be a really cool ratio for us. And then also 1 Lobomon. Just for Lobomon stuff, we are in a format where hybrids can still win the game, and especially, like, sometimes you just need to find another body to go up your lines, and so having the Lobomon out to have that, I think, is really important. So I like running it at 1. I think it does some good stuff. And again, like, if we had like 1 more slot, I think Aandroidd might be one. I'd probably put another rookie, and then Aandroidd would be the next one after that. Going into our level 5s, we do have some of the usual suspects for these as well. We do have the Pyotramons, so we do have 3 of those, and then also 2 of the Dino Beamons. I do like these just because obviously we can, it's just the, the plays. We can give it jamming very easily. The way that it can get rid of something for DNAing is good, and obviously it can do a lot of damage very quickly, which is nice. And then 2 of the Dino Beasts just because I wanted more consistency with the blue-green stuff, and this does actually can help stun, something that's really important. So if they have something, what is it, like they're like, you're playing against something with like a Gaiomon that has like blocker, you can use Dino B and you can swing over, into their security instead, and they can't really stand it during their next unsuspend phase. So this does get some work every once in a while. I do like it at 2 of, and then we are just running 2 of the Chimeramons. Obviously you can't search this out in any way, you have to just hard draw this guy, but there's just so many cool ways that you can get some creative stuff with this, especially since we are playing the Magnamons. That means that if we ever get the yellow in there for it, we do get like the quad colors, because you can have blue, green, yellow and white, so you do get the extra stuff from there, so that can be helpful. It is just your turn you get the boost there, so if you digivolve on top of that you don't get that, but I do like Chimeramon, and since we have so many good rookie inheritables in this deck too, being able to get some of those underneath there can be quite helpful. Going into our level 6s from here, we do have 2 of the dragon modes. I think these are pretty common in this deck. Being able to recycle your stack to get some more boys out is good. In this deck specifically, you do have to get 1 blue and 1 green, so if you have a stack where it's a Magnamon and something else, like with a Chimeramon or something, you can only get 1 of the blue guys out, so you do have to be careful of that. We also are running 2 of the X antibodies. I am enjoying this in this deck a lot, just because of all the things for it. It is not a free trait, which is a real bummer. I really don't know why it doesn't have free trait. At least I don't know what the lore reason for it. I don't know if they're just afraid of giving it more traits for it, but without it still it's very good. Being able to honestly, like sometimes in this deck I just want to digivolve for 3, and so this does it very easily, especially since you can do it for cheaper with some ways that we need to, and just the fact that you can get some really cool stuff with this. You do have to note that it only gets the kind of redirection stuff only when you do have an armor form underneath it. So if you have like a regular Paildramon stack, you don't get that, but you still get its armor purge on deletion effect. So if they do try to pop this, you do get to put it on top of your security stack, so that's kind of nice. Even if you just swing into it and then like it dies into security or something, it does kind of help you there, and that is kind of nice. So that is something to note. And then also just 1 of the fighter mode, I took it out. I took 1 out for a Magnamon based on my last one, just because I never felt like I had the time to play this guy, and it doesn't hit as much as it used to. Sometimes you can do some fancy stuff where you use Chimeramon to give something a minus 4k, and then you can digivolve into this, and then if it becomes, so if anything 14k or less, it becomes a 10k, and then you can bounce it back with fighter mode. So that's kind of nice. That still kind of happens every once in a while, but I just never found it very useful, more than like finding like 1 every once in a while. So I think it's just not as good in the meta. I'd rather have another X antibody, just because this lets you get some protection on your stack too, which is nice. So like if you have this, and spoilers, we are running some Davis and Kens, we are running 3 of these guys, you can do some fancy stuff where, let's say you swung out with your Paildramon stack, right, let me get the Paildramon. If you swing out with it and you do 2 damage to your opponent, normally you can just go into like the dragon mode and then nothing happens there, but and then if they try to remove it, they get to remove it. And obviously the armor purge from the X antibody does lose to thing like a bounce back to hand or something like that, which all this would anyways, but just the fact that you can use the Paildramon, swing out, you go into Magnamon, you get the restand with the Davis Ken, and then if they try to remove this, you get the armor purge, you get the recovery there, and then you get to use the effect of the Paildramon. Again, you can swing 2 more times the next turn if it still lives. So just kind of nice being able to do that. And obviously we can just use the Magnamon to digivolve up from the regular Magnamon right here. I just had it out. There it is. So you can just digivolve on top of it for 4, which is kind of expensive at times, but that does mean that like you can, you swing with Magnamon. If you have the 4 energy for it, you can digivolve on top of that. You get the restand. You go into it. It has its effect going on, and on top of Magnamon is usually the best because it pretty much has like a double armor purge, which is really nice. And being able to do that can help you out. So being able to do that just means that you're not like only control, and you get to do some stuff, and it feels very cool. So we are running 3 of the Davis Ken just to help get that restand, which is really nice. 2 just regular Davis because you can't run an armor or free deck without a Davis. And then we do have 2 Hammer Sparks and 3 of these Megadeths too. I think these Megadeths are just important. This is another card that if I could bump up to 4, I probably would. And some cards that are on the chopping block for me are the fighter mode. I don't like, if you don't like fighter mode, just don't run it. I don't know if it just doesn't, I mean, it's a really cool card, don't get me wrong, but I just don't feel like it does anything right now. Sure, you can play it for 5, but then it usually gets popped the next turn very easily and doesn't have as much staying power as it used to. So that is something to consider. So if you want another Magnamon, if you want another Vmon, I think that is worth it there. What other cards would I consider? I don't know. It's very, very tight. I think the only other card is that if you end up doing something to add a 3rd copy of like a Magnamon, I would consider running a Shakuamon, just because Shakuamon can do some funny stuff too, where you can get the recovery, you can get a pop on a level 6 if it's very early in the game, which is nice. as well as it is a free trait, so you can find it from all the free stuff. You get the jamming off the XVmon underneath it, and the -3k on the -3k on swing as an inheritable can be kind of impactful at times too. So that can do some stuff that gets around some blockers, or like you can swing over some stuff that your opponent's probably not expecting to do that. So I think that's kind of worth the investment too if you want. I think Dynabeat just probably fits the deck better because getting the yellow for the DNA for this is really dependent on finding the Magnamons, and since we're only running 2 right now, I don't think that's very viable. But that is another choice there. And that is the list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really like all this stuff. I know it's not in just Armor Rush. I know it's not Imperial Dramon. It's kind of like an in-between. Is it better than either one? Probably not. It's just a different build for people who want to do just some kind of fun, cool plays, get some really cool stacks, and just have your opponent not exactly knowing what's going on and get some extra value from that. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.